What if the very thing that makes Tesla unstoppable, its philosophy of moving fast and breaking things, suddenly stopped? Welcome to Connecting the Dots, the channel where we follow the breadcrumbs to predict where disruptions will take us. Elon Musk expected 5,000 Optimus robots by the end of 2025. Instead, production is paused. Some see this as proof that Tesla has lost the race to humanoids. Others dismiss it as nothing. I think both sides are missing the real story. This delay isn't just about a redesign of the hand, it's a window into Tesla's biggest dilemma yet, whether to chase perfection or stick to the messy, chaotic formula that made them great. By the end of this video, you'll see why this pause could tell us everything about Tesla's future in robotics. Now buckle up, because when it comes to humanoids, even the smallest detail, like the design of a robot's hand, can decide who wins the biggest disruption of our lifetime. And disruptions are never boring. 1. The delay. Elon Musk set an ambitious target, 5,000 Optimus robots by the end of 2025. But current production sits in the hundreds, and recent reports suggest a 2-month production pause for redesigns. This news has become a clear litmus test of how people view Tesla. Sites like Electrek see doom and gloom. They paint this as if Tesla has fallen behind its competitors and lost the humanoid robot race. Some even say the truth is finally coming out on false claims Elon made to pump the stock. They can say what they like. I am not one of them. On the other side, some devout Tesla fans dismiss the reports as fake, or frame any delay as a blessing in disguise. Despite being a huge fan myself, I'm not one of these guys either. Between these extremes sit those who understand technology, look for nuance, and think without being blinded by emotions. One of them is S.E. Robinson Jr. To cut to the chase, let me share his report on the matter. You have probably seen the Optimus doom and gloom reports about a production freeze, complete overhaul, etc. Here are the facts from the initial report by A Invest without the negativity. The report is based on 2 Chinese suppliers for Tesla, who stated there is a 2-month pause on Optimus production to redesign hardware and software, and that the company suspended parts procurement about half a month ago. Robinson continues, they said feedback from Tesla indicates the changes focus on thermal control in select joint actuators, improving load capacity in dexterous hands, increasing the lifespan of transmission components, and extending battery life. The suppliers also said once the design improvements are completed, Tesla should have a new mass production plan and resume procurement. The report also mentions Tesla had manufactured close to 1,000 units by May, and that leadership changes occurred when Milan Kovac left and Ashok Elaswamy took over the project in early June. But to me, one thing in A Invest's report stood out. Tesla is currently evaluating samples from multiple dexterous hand suppliers, testing at least 3 different technical approaches. This confirms something much bigger, which I had predicted some time ago. But to understand my perspective, let's go back to basics and examine the extraordinary technological challenge behind Optimus's hands. Before we do that, I noticed that only 20% of you are subscribed. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe. You'll get notified of new videos, and it really helps the channel. 2. Why hands matter. When Tesla introduced the first generation of Optimus in its 2022 AI Day, there were many critics. One of them, robotics expert Cynthia Young, or CTWY on X, held a live thread analyzing Tesla's presentation. Analyzed is too kind. She mocked and ridiculed the event. For example, one comment was that it felt like a grad student doing a class presentation for a bunch of undergrads. Feels very 101. But she wasn't just hating. She was a Tesla investor since IPO. And although I'm sure she hated the idea of newcomer Tesla arriving and promising to do what all other robotics companies could not, her comments did reflect her professional opinion as the CTO of a robotics company. For example, when Tesla discussed the humanoid form, Cynthia said, "A lot of talk about joints and actuators. I think Elon Musk seems enamored of the Boston Dynamics approach toward robots, form over function, as opposed to what a lot of other folks are working on, function informs form." Fair point. Boston Dynamics spent years developing their bipedal humanoid atlas, yet all it could do were party tricks with next to zero real-world value. Meanwhile, stupid one-armed industrial robots provided huge utility and kept the economy going. Then she continued, "Felix, the robotics engineer, is talking about walking. Yes, walking can be hard, but are you launching features for the sake of features or to actually solve problems?" True again. Wheel designs like 1X's robot Eve can do lots of useful work in factories, offices, and homes. The best part is no part. Bipedal legs require more actuators and raise stability issues, while wheels make robots cheaper, more reliable, less likely to fall, and available much sooner. She literally laughed at Tesla's ambition to give the robot a five-fingered hand. I love that Tesla has decided to create a five-fingered hand as opposed to a two- or three-finger pincher, or a vacuum-based pick-and-place approach like other robotics companies do. There's a reason why all the warehouse startups don't use hand-like manipulation mechanisms. With all the progress since then, this seems laughable. But don't laugh. She was right. Grippers work brilliantly for many jobs. Factory robots with suction cups can move boxes faster than any human. Welding robots with specialized tools can create perfect seams all day. For picking and placing parts on an assembly line, a simple two-finger gripper often outperforms even the most sophisticated hand. They're cheaper, more reliable, easier to control, and if form follows function, they really are better than hands for many warehouse jobs. Cynthia was right that form should follow function, and was even quoted on this in the Financial Times piece, "Forget the humanoids, it's industrial robots that will transform the world." Moreover, she was even right saying that suction cups or grippers have many advantages over five-fingered hands if the required function is stacking crates in a warehouse. The only thing she was wrong at was the required function, because Tesla did not set its sights on building the best crate stacker, package sorter, or metal welder. They wanted Optimus to be capable of doing all these and much more. And when the required function is doing everything human hands can, what form enables this better than that of human hands? Think about a typical day. You turn door handles, type on keyboards, pour coffee, fold laundry, use tools, and handle dozens of objects with different textures, weights, and fragility. You adjust your grip instinctively, firm enough to open a stubborn jar, gentle enough to hold an unboiled egg. Suction cups and grippers can't do this. They might excel at a few tasks and manage a few more, but fail the moment you need to go outside their narrow comfort zone. This is why human-like hands are crucial for versatility. Our entire world is designed around five-fingered hands. Door handles, keyboards, tools, appliances, everything assumes you have thumbs and fingers that can work independently and together. More importantly, a truly general-purpose robot must integrate seamlessly into human environments without requiring us to redesign everything. You can't retrofit every home and office with robot-specific interfaces. The robot needs to adapt to our world, not the other way around. Tesla understands that the path to a trillion-dollar robotics market isn't through specialized industrial bots. It's through creating machines that can genuinely replace human labor across the widest range of tasks. Like Cynthia said, form should follow function, and when the function is to do everything human hands do, the form must be that of a human hand. 3. The Dexterity Challenge. If robots should do everything humans can, hands need more than just human shape. They need human-like movement. This is where Tesla's engineering challenge really begins. Human hands have about 27 degrees of freedom. That's 27 different ways the hand can move, counting each finger joint, the thumb's opposition, wrist rotation, and more. This incredible complexity is what lets you thread a needle, play piano, hammer away, or tie your shoes without thinking about it. Tesla's first-generation hand only had 11 degrees of freedom. While this enabled it to do basic tasks like gripping and manipulating objects, it was incapable of matching the fluid, complex motions that make human hands so versatile. The hand was operated by 6 actuators placed in the palm and just above the wrist, with short tendons running to the fingers. The second-generation hand was faster and more tactile, yet had the same 11 degrees of freedom, a far cry from the dexterity of a human hand. With very limited space available for actuators required to support additional degrees of freedom, Tesla took a different approach. Their third-generation hand was operated by long tendons connecting the fingers with large actuators located in the forearm to provide 22 degrees of freedom. While everyone oohed and awed at this amazing hand, I was less than impressed. I DM'd a famous investor I was in touch with and told him I didn't believe Tesla would ultimately choose this design. I believed they would later reveal something closer to their original model. Why was I skeptical? Because although I believe Optimus's hands should be shaped like human hands and move like human hands, they should not, in my opinion, be built like human hands. Let me explain. 4. Two extremes. This is where engineering gets interesting. To understand Tesla's dilemma, let's look at the spectrum of solutions, starting with the most extreme. 4A. Tendons. Clone robotics represents the ultimate biomimetic approach. Their hands are mesmerizing. Fingers bend and flex with uncanny human-like motion, powered by artificial muscles and tendons. Watching their demos feels like seeing the future, a robotic hand that moves exactly like yours. If you've ever wondered how tendons move fingers like puppet strings, the video in the background provides a mesmerizing peek. But notice what Clone doesn't show. Sustained heavy work, rapid repetitive motions, or long-term durability. Their approach is beautiful, but pushes the limits of what tendon-based systems can reliably do. They're trying to recreate human anatomy with synthetic materials, an engineering challenge as impressive as it is impractical for mass production. Human hands use muscles, tendons, and ligaments evolved over millions of years for specific purposes. Robotic hands have different building blocks: precision motors, composites, smart materials, and sensors. These components have properties biology never had. So the optimal robotic design shouldn't copy human anatomy directly, but use the strengths of technology's building blocks. Tesla's Gen 3 design takes a more moderate tendon approach. Instead of clones' full biomimetic system, which even imitates muscles, Tesla uses long tendons running from powerful actuators in the forearm to drive 22 degrees of freedom in the hand. This brings big advantages. First, additional degrees of freedom mean greater dexterity and sophisticated manipulation. Second, moving heavy actuators into the forearm lowers inertia. A lighter hand allows quicker, more responsive wrist movement, and shifting mass closer to the shoulder makes the whole arm faster. Tesla showed this when Optimus caught a tennis ball mid-flight, but long tendons also create problems. Tendons stretch under load, which causes imprecise control and reduced force transmission. When Cynthia Young criticized Tesla's tendon choice, this was likely her main concern. But being an industrial robots expert, she probably missed 3 points. First, unlike traditional systems, modern robots can self-calibrate and compensate for some tendon elongation. Second, unlike industrial robots, Optimus doesn't need perfect precision. With vision and AI, if actuators misplace the hand or fingers, sensors correct the grip. And third, unlike traditional tendon-based hands which Cynthia knew, the tendons in Tesla's first-gen hand, which she criticized, were local and short. Miniaturization had recently enabled placing actuators within the palm or just above the wrist, and the tendons connecting fingers with these were relatively short. Since stretch grows with length, Gen 1's tendons were not a problem. But Gen 3's tendons are far longer and the difference is massive. Then comes the packaging nightmare. Routing many cables through a robotic wrist creates what engineers jokingly call carpal tunnel syndrome for robots. Adding degrees of freedom means adding more cables and routing complexity. Long tendons also create load issues. Real manipulation tasks constantly apply side forces that misalign with tendon paths, causing wear, binding, and eventually failures. And one more thing, long tendons going to the arm couple the hand and the arm together as one piece. With Gen 1 and Gen 2 hands, if something breaks or deforms the robot's arm, you replace the arm and the hand is as good as new. If this happens to Generation 3 arms, however, everything must be replaced. With Tesla's constant emphasis on decoupling, this goes against the Tesla way. 4B microactuators. Now the opposite extreme, microactuators. Companies taking this route avoid tendon problems entirely. For example, SharpaWave from Singapore startup Sharpa has 22 degrees of freedom, with tiny actuators in each finger joint. No cable stretch, no routing headaches, no side load wear, just the smooth operation of electric motors. The control system is simpler too. Instead of coordinating tendons, each joint responds directly to its motor, mechanically elegant, and much easier to program or train. But microactuators face a hard limit: grip strength. Motors small enough to fit in finger joints can't generate much torque. Think of a wrench trying to turn a stuck bolt. Hold near the bolt and you get little force. Hold at the end and you get leverage. Forearm tendons are like using the long handle. Microactuators are like trying to turn the bolt with your fingertips. Grip strength is a huge issue. For example, Foundation Robotics' Phantom Mark I robot can lift 45 pounds with its arms, yet its hands can't even pinch and unscrew a bottle cap. And they're not even using microactuators. That's the genius of Tesla's Gen 1 design. By placing actuators in the palm and driving fingers with short tendons, Tesla found a sweet spot which captured tendon leverage benefits without the reliability mess of long cable runs. Short tendons meant minimal stretch, simple routing, predictable force transmission. Palm actuators gave strong grip while staying serviceable. It wasn't as biomimetic as long tendon systems, but it worked. Although inertia was a problem, the main weakness of Gen 1 and 2 hands was just too few degrees of freedom. To add these, Tesla moved to tendons. The reason I DM'd the investor that this was mistaken was that I believed it is possible to achieve over 20 degrees of freedom without the limitations of either long tendons or microactuators. Let's check my assumption. 5. The DoF Gamble. But what prompted me to risk my integrity and tell an investor almost half a year ago I believe Tesla will desert its newly revealed Gen 3 design? A year or two ago, while researching Chinese robotics companies for one of my videos, I stumbled on something fascinating. One manufacturer had a hand similar to Tesla's Gen 2 design, but with 19 degrees of freedom. I don't recall the exact grip strength, only that it seemed fine. The design was solid. Counting methods may differ, but at face value, 19 degrees of freedom nearly matches Tesla's Gen 3 hand, while using the more robust approach of Gen 1 and 2. These weren't long tendon systems threading through narrow wrists, but clever mechanical designs with actuators positioned strategically in the hand and forearm. From there, connecting the dots was simple. If Chinese manufacturers could achieve a high DOF hand without Gen 3's tendon complexity, then it was only a matter of time before Tesla, with its outstanding engineering resources and manufacturing scale, could do it better. Sure, there's also the inertia problem, but I believe that with miniaturization, this too would be solved. As we'll later see, I was right. While earlier hands weighed over 1 kilogram, current hands weigh less than 400 grams, like the weight of 2 iPhones. This is why I messaged that investor when Tesla first showed Gen 3. It's not that tendons can't work, I just suspected Tesla would find a more elegant path. The challenge isn't achieving 22 degrees of freedom, it's doing so reliably, affordably, and at scale. Think about it from Tesla's perspective. They don't need one lab prototype. They need millions of hands that endure dust, moisture, temperature swings, and thousands of hours of work. Hardware failures can't be patched with OTA updates, and Tesla doesn't want recalls that look like marching armies of robots returning to base. Long tendons may impress in demos, but at production scale, they multiply failure points. Enter harmonic drives. These pair actuators with gears to multiply force and enable complex motion without relying on cables. Take the Jiao hand from Xiaowei. Using mostly linear actuators, some arranged in parallel, it mimics tendon leverage while still achieving 20 degrees of freedom. So when A-Invest reported that Tesla is evaluating samples from multiple dexterous hand suppliers, testing at least 3 different technical approaches, to me that spelled a showdown. Tendon-based Gen 3 designs, localized approaches like Gen 2 or the Jiao hand, and very likely a hybrid built from the building blocks we've already seen. The likeliest path for hybrid is using harmonics paired with palm or wrist-mounted actuators and short tendons, but really anything's on the table. One can even imagine joint-placed micro-actuators where torque is less required, or even a few long tendons running up the arm for where heavy lifting is involved. But these do seem less likely than the first hybrid I described. And when Tesla finally locks in a design and restarts production, it won't be a minor tweak. It will be a dexterous, reliable hand, engineered for mass production at huge scale. I can't wait to see that beast. A couple of years ago, I posted a meme on X saying, "The news used to tell you that something happened, and you had to decide what you thought about it. Now the news tells you what to think about something, and you have to decide if it ever happened." But the real threat isn't blatant lying, it's selective editing. Which facts to show, which to hide, and how each story gets framed. That's why I use Ground News, the sponsor of this video. Ground News is the only platform that compares coverage across the political spectrum and highlights which stories are being completely ignored. Their blind spot feed is one of my favorite features. It surfaces almost 100 stories from each side that are being overlooked by either the left or the right. Check it out yourself at ground.news/ctdots. It's a simple but powerful way to track media bias in real time. Take the Israel-Gaza situation. When 3 Jews were attacked and doused in paint while hanging hostage posters in Frankfurt, only 9% of the coverage was from left-leaning outlets. Similarly, when 4 aid seekers were killed in Gaza, only 3% of the coverage was from right-leaning outlets. Each side only reports what fits their narrative and hides what raises uncomfortable questions. The blind spot feature shows what each side wants to hide. But it's not just what's hidden, it's how stories are framed. While right-leaning outlets ignored the story, left-leaning ones used emotionally charged terms like famine and lies to paint Israel as running a deliberate campaign against civilians. Centrist outlets used neutral terms and let readers decide for themselves. Ground News shows you all this context, bias, factuality, and ownership, so you can deeply understand what's happening instead of reacting like you're told. They have dedicated versions for the US, UK, Canada, Europe, and internationally, so you get the stories that matter to you most. If you're watching my videos, you're clearly someone who likes thinking for themselves. Head to ground.news/ctdots for 40% off their unlimited Vantage plan, the same one I use, and get the full picture that lets you do exactly that. 6. This scares me. Tesla's philosophy shift. Here comes my main concern, and honestly, it scares me more than any technical challenge. Tesla is not acting like Tesla here. Before I continue, if you're the type who can't stand criticism of Tesla, skip to Chapter 9 or head to a fan channel. I'm as bullish as anyone, but I prefer showing things as I see them. And besides huge opportunities, I also see risks. The Optimus hand story might represent a shift in Tesla's philosophy, one that goes against everything that made them successful. Normally, Tesla doesn't wait for perfection. They release early, learn from the field, and improve. That has been their secret weapon for over a decade. Take SpaceX versus Boeing. Boeing plans until everything is perfect on paper. They spend years in reviews, run endless simulations, and aim for flawless first attempts. The result? Starliner took over a decade to reach orbit and still struggles. SpaceX instead embraces failure. They let rockets blow up, learn, and iterate. Starship started with spectacular RUDs, but that's exactly how they achieved last week's breakthrough. Of course, those were tests, not production items, but Tesla showed the same philosophy in production. The original Model S wasn't perfect at launch. Door handle issues, software glitches, build quality problems. Yet Tesla sold those cars anyway. They were good enough to please buyers, generate revenue, and reveal usage patterns lab testing could never show. The Model 3 followed the same pattern. Remember production hell? Tesla was figuring out mass production while customers were already taking delivery. Panel gaps, paint, buggy software, all real problems. But those early cars taught Tesla more about scale than years of theoretical planning ever could. This iterative approach isn't just Tesla's style, it's their competitive advantage. While traditional automakers take years gathering changes for the next generation of cars, Tesla continuously introduces them even to existing models in the way they are produced. To put it another way, while other companies launch models with technologies that are a few years old and then continue manufacturing them unchanged for a few more years, Tesla always manufactures with the latest technologies, and then they OTA install even newer tech into the existing fleet. We get constantly improving cars, while Tesla gets invaluable data from their latest tech. But with Optimus, if the reports are true, it seems like Tesla is waiting until an omnidextrous multi-DoF hand is perfected. That's a dramatic departure from their playbook, and it worries me. Instead of waiting, Tesla could have produced a legion of robots with Gen 2 hands. 11 degrees of freedom are more than enough for numerous tasks in factories, warehouses, and at home. These robots could have started working inside Tesla's own factories, generating value and, more importantly, data, while development of the more advanced hand continues undisturbed. Deploying these robots could have taught Tesla how robots perform different manipulation tasks, how they work alongside human employees, and what mechanical stresses actually matter in practice versus theory. Some of this data could potentially be valuable even for improving the upcoming multi-DoF hand. This would also build production infrastructure, train service techs, and grow the software ecosystem, all critical for scaling. Instead, Tesla has chosen perfectionism over progress. They're acting more like Boeing than SpaceX, more like traditional automakers than the disruptor they've always been. Avoiding recalls makes sense, but Tesla could deploy internally at SpaceX, suppliers, and their own plants without that risk, gaining priceless experience before rolling out upgrades. I might be wrong, and this could be a fluke. But I see more signs. The reports mention that actuators are built with tiny tolerances. While traditional robotics experts like Cynthia Jung might cheer this, I am not fully convinced. Tighter tolerances have the downside of higher costs and fewer available suppliers. They also have upsides which I cheer. They're more reliable, use less energy, and provide higher torque. More power to the electric people. These upsides are all good. But I suspect there's another motive: uniformity. With ultra-consistent actuators, when you command the hand to move, the robot will do it almost exactly as modeled. In industrial robots, this is essential. For example, welders must hit precise points. With Optimus, however, if all actuators and all robots are the same, this enables one-shot training. Loading simulation results directly onto robots with no need for real-world learning. While one-shot training is desired, getting there by forcing uniformity is a crutch. In a way, it's like using LiDAR for FSD, useful short-term but in the long run, limiting. Timing makes the delay more concerning. The humanoid robots race is heating fast. Chinese players and a few Western startups are making real progress. A 2-month delay feels like a lifetime, and while Tesla pursues perfection, competitors are gaining valuable real-world experience. The irony is painful. Tesla disrupted autos by rejecting perfectionism and proving that rapid iteration beats endless planning. Now, in robotics, where speed is crucial, they risk eroding their lead by abandoning the very philosophy that made them successful. This isn't just about hands or degrees of freedom, it's about whether Tesla will keep the risk-taking, fast, iterating culture that I once predicted would turn them into CHOM. Or maybe they've become too cautious in exactly the wrong way at exactly the wrong time. 7. Risks of waiting. The opportunity cost of Tesla's perfectionism becomes clearer when you look at what they're giving up. Had Tesla Robotics provided Tesla cars with thousands of robots with 11 degree of freedom Gen 2 hands, things would be different. These would be enough to cover many factory tasks, loading parts into fixtures, moving components, basic assembly work. None of this requires the dexterity to thread a needle or tie shoelaces. A robot that can reliably grip, lift, and place objects would quickly add value inside Tesla's factories. But the real loss isn't productivity, it's learning. Every hour without robots in the field is an hour lost in gathering data. How do different grips hold up over thousands of cycles? Which joints wear fastest? What failure modes appear in dust, heat, or humidity? How do human workers interact with robots on the line? This kind of feedback is priceless and impossible to simulate beforehand. Tesla's own Model 3 production hell proved it. Lessons about material flow, quality control, and human-machine interfaces came only from real-world deployment. Even more frustrating is the mismatch with Tesla's own projections. In the Q2 earnings call, Elon acknowledged challenges and pushed back expectations. Production of the updated Optimus 3 is now slated for early 2026. His reasonable aspiration is 1 million units a year within 5 years, and he'd be shocked if Tesla isn't producing 100,000 units a month by 2030. But the real question is, why even chase perfection now? Tesla itself says scale is a few years away, and in current robotics, even 2 years are akin to a lifetime. Just 2 years from now, both hardware and AI will be transformed. Actuators will be stronger and lighter, AI more capable. Even materials science will advance. The hand perfected today will likely be obsolete by the time they hit 5-figure annual production. In the next couple of years, Tesla will have access to components and techniques that don't even exist yet. That makes today's pursuit of perfection feel almost pointless. Tesla is burning engineering resources and, more importantly, time, optimizing for constraints that won't exist at scale. It's like designing a smartphone around 2019 manufacturing when you know it won't ship until 2025. I'm not kidding, because the upcoming 2 years in robotics will see much bigger changes than the last 6 years in smartphones. Tesla has stopped running while waiting for new shoes. Meanwhile, competitors are closing the gap. They're shipping imperfect robots, learning and iterating rapidly. Tesla is chasing theoretical perfection while others gain the practical experience that matters more in a fast-moving field like robotics. The clock is ticking, and every month of delay hands competitors another chance to close in. 8. Tesla versus the field. While Tesla is testing hand designs, the competition is moving fast. There are too many companies to cover even in a full video, so I'll focus on the points that matter most for Tesla's position. 8A Unitree. Normally I'd start with Western players and then move to China, but instead let's start with the wild card, Unitree Robotics. And the reason is simple. I completely changed my opinion on them, and maybe you will too. Unitree's robots have gone viral for athletic feats, boxing, running, dancing, and backflips that would make Boston Dynamics jealous. Their hardware is impeccable, but their brains are lacking. If you ever wondered how those boxing videos were filmed, the clip in the background shows it clearly. Until recently, I dismissed Unitree as a Chinese reincarnation of Boston Dynamics, obsessed with locomotion and viral party tricks with next to zero real-world utility. Cool videos, but when you realize you're still the one clearing the table, and that even in a warehouse the robot won't have much use, its shine wears off. But don't underestimate them. Humanoids are still in their infancy, and winning requires passing 3 hurdles. First, real-world AI, robots acting autonomously, not teleoperated. Second, mechanical, building efficient humanoids with great dexterity and with actuators that provide torque without burning energy. Third, manufacturability at scale. Unitree is laser-focused on the mechanical and manufacturing hurdles while leaving AI to others. They've even open-sourced their control systems, letting developers write software for their robots. This has obvious downsides. For example, their robots recently crashed into each other and even into a person at China's Humanoid Robot World Games. But here's a side story. About 20 years ago, I led a skunkworks project where I had 3 months to develop from scratch a working demo against competitors who'd been at it for years. One key requirement was streaming live HD video into a portable end station. Today that sounds trivial. We all have 4K on our phones, but back then it was nearly impossible. Competitors either gave up and showed low-res or rolled in trucks full of servers. With no time for that, I aimed for a laptop. Even the strongest laptops couldn't handle HD, especially ruggedized ones. But by charting progress in video capture tech and extrapolating exponential growth, I figured it was worth the gamble. We bought a powerful gaming laptop with lots of different input ports, set SD as fallback, and kept developing everything else while simply testing every new HD capture device that came out. Most underperformed until one day, an inexpensive little stick solved the problem overnight. We aced the demo. Our system was unique and would be considered cutting edge even now, and as icing on the cake, it provided full HD and greater mobility at a fraction of the cost of those server trucks. The lesson? First, if you know what you're doing, it's fine to focus on core strengths while letting impossible problems solve themselves. And second, even if I'd been wrong, it was still the right bet. With no time to invent missing hardware, the downside was competing with a kick-ass SD system. The upside was category-leading HD. That's an asymmetrical bet worth taking. I dismissed Unitree until I realized they were making the same kind of bet. They don't have the resources to develop world-class AI, so leaving that piece open costs them little. The upside, if someone else cracks it for them, is enormous. Look at recent history. It took years for OpenAI to develop ChatGPT, but soon after, everyone had an LLM. Stable Diffusion and DALL-E kicked off the same rush in image generation. Robotics is following the same curve. Boston Dynamics took decades to master bipedal locomotion, but modern AI has made it close to a solved problem. Unitree could pour millions into robot training, or they can wait until LLM-based AI becomes plug and play. Already you can imagine giving commands in plain language. Inference still needs work, but companies like NVIDIA are racing to deliver portable solutions. Unitree's bet is simple. Stay ahead mechanically, master manufacturing, and once AI for robots becomes off the shelf, leap forward. If the timing plays out for them, they could end up in the front row. But even if they don't, given their resources, it's still probably the smartest bet they could make. 8B Western companies, Figure AI, Sanctuary, and 1X are all making genuine progress.
Hey Figure, can you fold these towels for me?
Sure thing. I'll get right on that.
Figure recently demonstrated robots performing end-to-end auto-assembly tasks at simulated BMW factories. Basic, but real work. Brett Adcock's team deserves credit for reaching this stage while focusing on manufacturability and mass production. I said I wish Tesla had started ramping up production even with simpler hands, and that's exactly what 1X did with their Eve and Atom robots.
Hey Eve, could you and your friends tidy up here? We have some visitors coming.
Instead of waiting for their bipedal 10-fingered Atom robot to be ready, they first released a wheeled gripper bot called Eve. That gave them valuable factory and home data long before Atom is ready. Data which undoubtedly helped improve Atom. There are many other companies, and if you like, you can pause the video and take a glimpse of a small sample of them. But here's the bottom line. As I said in a video 3 years ago, even if Tesla loses, they will win. Even if someone beats Tesla in the race to develop a useful humanoid, Tesla will rapidly catch up, and then by sheer manufacturing skills, they will rapidly pull ahead. While some companies are already doing pilots and others have even delivered robots to paying customers, none can scale like Tesla. They lack the infrastructure, supply chains, and mostly innovative manufacturing skills. When Tesla talks about 100,000 units per month by 2030, these players are thinking hundreds or maybe thousands, and even Figure AI's ambitious targets fall short. 8C, the Chinese humanoid revolution. When I did that video 3 years ago, there was no sign of the humanoid tidal wave that was building up in China and will soon start sweeping the world. Here, humanoid robotics is treated as a strategic priority, backed by state resources and an emerging supply chain built for scale. There are numerous Chinese humanoid robot firms, and the list is growing almost by the hour. To give you a sense of it, in 2023 alone, 10,408 robotics-related startups were formed in Shenzhen alone. As seen in this extremely partial list, several companies already have robots deployed in pilot operations or even with paying customers. The 10K figure is not just humanoid companies, dedicated suppliers of robotic hands, actuators, batteries, vision systems, software, hardware, AI, all geared to serve this industry. To give you a feeling of how everything and everyone is readying for humanoids, look at this ad by Eddie Builds on X for buying POV training data for robots.
We're in China manufacturing AI glasses to collect the largest data set of first-person footage in the world. Our initial fleet of 10,000 glasses have a recording capability of 58.4 million hours a year, which is 1,000 times larger than any data set in history. This will enable world models and humanoid robots that both understand physics and societal context. So if you need this data, you can call me right now.
Maybe it was a green screen, but it doesn't matter. Ideas like this will sell, and they're multiplying. Everything around humanoids, production, training, even leasing, is about to explode into rapid growth markets. I encourage you to take time and see where you can fit in. If you want to discuss options, follow and DM me on X at ConnectingODots. The race between Western companies and Chinese ones isn't just corporate, it's geopolitical. Governments are linking robotics to national competitiveness, subsidizing local champions, and pulling production home. And in the middle of this, of course, is Tesla. 9. Where Tesla stands. I'll start with the bottom line. I remain extremely bullish on Tesla. Before diving into why, despite the concerns I've raised, let me be clear about my reservations. I don't have access to Tesla's internal data, roadmaps, or strategy. I don't think I'm smarter than Elon Musk or the Tesla team. What Warren Redlich aptly calls smarter than Elon syndrome is a trap I avoid. It's entirely possible the pause reflects sophisticated strategic thinking I can't see. Or maybe setbacks forced a pause anyway, so Tesla used the time to ensure they restart with a better hand. Pun intended. It could be that the new hand should arrive so soon after a simpler hand robot was ready that producing thousands of interim optimi wasn't worth the distraction. Maybe the competitive threat isn't as urgent as it looks, or maybe Tesla has hidden advantages that make a few months irrelevant. Tesla has earned the benefit of the doubt through execution. They've consistently proven skeptics wrong, from the original Roadster to Gigafactory scaling to full self-driving. Their track record of turning ambitious timelines into reality, even if delayed, is unmatched. Bottom line, things I don't know could completely nullify my assessment. Having said that, let's assess Tesla's position based on things we do know. Let's address all players involved: Tesla, the competition, and the market itself. 9A Tesla. Tesla's manufacturing scale is simply unmatched. When they talk about 100,000 robots per month by 2030, they're not making wild projections. They're applying proven methods to a new category. No robotics startup has the infrastructure, supply chains, or capital systems for this kind of scale. Figure AI and 1X are impressive, but fundamentally different businesses. Once Tesla hits stride, the volume differential will be overwhelming. It's the difference between a craft brewery and Anheuser-Busch. Both can make good products, but only one can supply global markets. The Chinese threat is more serious, backed by state policy and industrial resources. But Tesla has faced Chinese competition before in autos and emerged stronger. They know how to leverage Chinese manufacturing while keeping technological leadership. Tesla's advantages extend far beyond scale. Their integration of AI, hardware design, and production engineering creates synergies no standalone robotics company can match. Energy expertise will also be critical. Managing batteries, thermal systems, and charging for millions of robots is exactly the kind of systems problem Tesla has mastered. Then there's data. Tesla's fleet generates enormous amounts of real-world navigation and decision-making data, a training set no pure robotics company can touch. Their inference system constantly updates, and their data collection and improvement methods are proven and optimized. And finally, money. Tesla can afford to pause, iterate, and run multiple parallel tracks. Smaller players can't survive that luxury. This cushion enables a perfectionist streak that, while frustrating on timing, often leads to superior products. 9B, the competition. Now for the competition reality check. Assessing competitors based on videos and demos can be very misleading. For example, while Unitree's AI is behind, I think most of you would agree that their mechanical build seems impressive, among the best. Their kung fu clips are convincing, until you see this Stanford footage where robots collapsed due to overheating. You don't see those in the viral edits, and I'm sure the same applies to other companies showing robots deployed in factories. Beneath the polish, it's unclear how advanced any of them really are. 9C, the market. Finally, the market. The delay might reflect wisdom more than drift. Humanoid robotics is still nascent. There's no customer base demanding immediate deliveries. While everyone is talking about robots, most companies will wait until the technology is proven. Disruptions follow this pattern. Early hype, then a pause, then mass adoption once reliability is clear. Acknowledging this might make the wait for an updated hand worthwhile. 10. Eureka! I solved it. I already closed the video and added the visuals, but I'm rewriting this now since I believe I finally cracked the mystery. Again, nothing on this has been made public, so it's all speculation. But here's how I currently see things. As I predicted, Tesla went up the wrong alley with the Gen 3 hand. They spent too much time trying to make a viable, ultra-reliable product without success. And because they didn't expect it to take so long, or because the Gen 2 hand wasn't production ready, they never built Gen 2-handed robots as an interim step. My guess is this adventure cost Tesla around half a year, which in the race for humanoids is a whole effing lot. As a result, Milan Kovac was replaced, and a shock took his place. The first thing he did was assess alternatives, pick a hand, and start running. There's some chance that to make up lost time, they'll use an external supplier hand as an interim solution. In the long run, though, they'll definitely build their own. The good news is they're onto it, with fresh thinking and determination. Competition is making progress, some deploying in factories and even gearing for mass production, but Tesla is still strong and agile enough to overcome this. They have lost part of their lead, but now that they're running again, they will come out on top. As an engineer, I understand why they fell for the Gen 3 hand. Its elegance made it a tempting problem to solve, and they were too dug in to let go. But now that they've dug themselves out, they're moving again. I have no idea which hand they'll settle on. What I do know is that from now on, things will move fast. Tesla's lead was large enough to sustain this delay, and since they're running again, they'll win. I'm certain of it. So certain, I remain all in. To check this idea, I sent the script to a friend hugely invested in Tesla. Instead of comments, I received 2 words. Thank you. They also upped their patronage on Patreon. So I think I solved it, but I want to hear your opinion too. Let me know below. Should Tesla have released an interim version with the previous hand, or waited for the fully dexterous one like it did? Do you think they'll continue with the Gen 3 hand, or go for another solution? When will they start producing the upcoming robot? And when they do, will Tesla remain on top, or will the competition manage to close the gap? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read as many as I can. The robotics revolution is just beginning, and the next few years will decide who dominates what could be the largest market opportunity of our lifetimes. A huge thank you to my latest patrons, Randy K, Philip A, Andy T, Scott D, JPM, not that Travis and Scottish engineer. Without patrons, this channel wouldn't be possible. So thanks, guys. And to all my patrons, you guys rock. To help keep this content going, consider joining me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Don't forget to visit ground.news/CT-dots to stay informed on breaking news and avoid misleading narratives. You'll get 40% off the Vantage plan, which I use. So go there and see why I'm excited. For daily insights, follow me on X @ConnectingODots. Until next time, I am connecting the dots, and you are amazing.